Welcome to your new SideQuest podcast with the intention of helping you through the game of life with mindful reframing and awareness as we all move through this journey called the human experience. It's time to level up. Alright, hello everyone. Welcome to your new SideQuest. I have G.A.S, and you do too. This is Derek.
And this is Zach.
And today we are going to talk about this photography term called G.A.S, which stands for Gear Acquisition Syndrome. We both have experience with this gear acquisition syndrome coming from building our photography and videography career. So, Zach, what is your experience with G.A.S?
Yeah, so I first started my journey with photography. And at first, I thought it was as simple as buying a camera and a lens. But then as I slowly ventured into creating video, I realized that you need a lot more things. You need a mic, you need the laptop, the accessories, you need a tripod because you're going to need, to have the camera placed on somewhere. And all of these things just add up over time and create like a whole list of gear that you have in your inventory, but also it was the start of me racking up a lot of debt. So I remember in 2022, I was around 25, 26 at the time, and I remember investing a lot of my time and money into like what I deemed as like business expenses. Like I bought a car, and I even bought my first Sony camera, which is the A7S III. Those are huge investments that I made. So it just became a snowball from there. And I guess that's how, things just kind of built up over time. So, as a videographer, like, about how easy it is to like feel that deficit that you need to have something, right? What's been your experience like with photography and videography?
So yeah, this is basically a situation where you feel like you don't have enough tools in your inventory to do a certain job or a specific type of work that you think a certain tool or tools or a inventory of tools can make things easy for you to create, right? So for me, it was like I fell into this trap of the same thing, like upgrading to the next best gear just because there's only like a little upgrade to the next camera that was released from a certain brand. And I also acquired in my first beginning years of my career, I acquired a lot of debt just building my inventory. But the problem was that I felt like it was never enough. And I remember just going on Amazon and I see like this piece of gear, thousands of dollars. And I'm like, I already spent this much. This is nothing compared to what I already spent like before, right? So I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna just buy it. It's nothing. And
Yeah.
then
I kind of want to go into
yeah,
that a little later
right.
about Amazon, but yeah, I went through the same thing too.
Yeah, so that's kind of like this is not just only photography or videography related. This is like even regular things like in terms of hobbies or like even like moving into a new place.
Or going traveling too.
Yeah, like you constantly go into this cycle of just buying more extra stuff to support a certain purpose, right? Like for example, I recently got into pickleball. We both recently got into pickleball,
Yeah.
and it first started with just a paddle.
Yeah, just a $30 paddle you
Yeah.
could buy from Walmart.
Right, and then it snowballed into the balls and then into like more paddles and into the net.
The net, how much was that?
That was like $200, right? But hey, it was actually a pretty good investment because it
Was.
benefited our whole pickleball group.
Yeah.
But anyways, like I think you fell into a little trap of like paddles, right? In the
Yeah.
beginning.
I actually bought like 3 sets of paddles. The first one was, of course, from Walmart. The second, I thought I got a deal from someone from Facebook Marketplace, and those were 2 4 paddles that I needed total just to have like a whole group of people playing. And then eventually I was like, man, my paddle's not good enough. I think I'm gonna get the premium carbon
The
fiber
carbon
brand.
fiber, right,
And
right.
you know how much that was?
It was like $200 also,
It
right?
was close to $200, yeah. But I got it at a tennis store, so they sold like premium quality paddles.
But yeah, that's the trap, right? Like you buy all these like smaller things, but in frequent occurrences,
Yeah.
only to buy like the best one in the end, where you already like lost all that money,
Hmm.
right? Trying to get to that the better, the best paddle or like, the best gear, and we kind of reflected back on how all that money wasted just to have just one tool to do a certain problem, like to solve a
Right.
certain problem.
Yeah, and also accessories too. Like, didn't you recently buy pickleball shoes?
Oh yeah, that's the thing too. I was like, oh man, I don't have pickleball shoes, but technically I could have just used the current running shoes I've always been using
Yeah.
throughout the whole time, and that's just an impulse buy. The impulse buys are the problem here that we're trying to like talk about is just impulsively buying things that
Yeah.
we don't necessarily need, but causes us to fall into this trap of wasting money, of acquiring debt. But you mentioned something about Amazon, right?
Yeah.
You know, when you're browsing around Amazon, you see these prices, and let's talk more about that.
Hmm. Yeah, so I think we kind of mentioned about like buying things in your shopping cart, and there's this feeling of like kind of a little dopamine hit that you get from adding things to your cart. We mentioned this in a previous episode called mental fapping, but what I what I struggle with, I guess like even now, is like I would buy a set of things that I like, then I would see, oh, there's another accessory that could fit well with this, and so I add that too. But let's say the final checkout cost is like $460. There's this kind of a crazy thing that I do where like I'm like, okay, 460 isn't a really nice number. Let's just make it 500, just to round it up, make it like sound even, and then that leads me to like this trap of like finding an item that costs just $40 more in
That you
order to make that 500
that you don't
look
even
good
need,
that I
right?
don't even need. Yeah.
It's funny because like that's a big marketing strategy too, where they're like, oh, this is only like 49.99.
Yeah.
It's not $50. If it was $50, like the client or the customer would be more like resistant to buying
They
it,
would be turned away from it.
right? But like that 1 cent off, like 49.99, okay, like I could do that. But
Yeah.
when they would see the $50, they would be more turned off by it, right?
Hmm.
So it's a whole like marketing strategy for you to buy buy the product.
Yeah, that's the whole mechanism of like paid like shopping like on websites online is like they deliberately have these like functions and tools that make you like feel good once you buy a product or make you actually want to like add more stuff to your items.
I think in general, us humans like novelty, right? The whole thing is that novelty feels good. Like buying or experiencing new things feel good.
Yeah, and I like to feel complete too. I like to feel like I have the total package.
Yeah, that is something that I honestly cannot relate to. Like, but I can see what the problem is. Yeah, that the incompleteness. You just want it to feel full.
Yeah,
In terms of like even the smallest things, the number. You know,
that's how we go broke.
and like that also falls into this whole concept of like the accessories, right?
Mhm.
You want to feel complete. You want to feel
Yes.
like you have a complete inventory, the complete set. That goes even with like Pokemon cards,
Pokemon
right? Like
cards,
I
yeah.
know like right now people are like buying Pokemon cards. It's like becoming popular again, but they're probably all about having the complete set.
Mhm. People just love collecting.
Yeah, that's kind of like the problem, right? We don't feel like we have enough.
Mm.
Recently, I kind of told Zach about this quote that I've heard like a long time ago that I live by now, and I don't know who it was from, but it stated that quote, "The richest man isn't he who has the most, but he who needs the least." So, in other words, it's saying that if you don't need a lot, that means you're basically rich because you have enough. you're not in the mindset of scarcity. You're in the mindset of enough.
Like you're free from this rat race of being pulled in by like temptations and consumerism, basically.
Yeah, like you just feel content with the tools or the things that you have already to solve all the problems that you sought out to solve.
Let's go into a mindful reframing.
Yeah, what would you say we could mindfully reframe this mindset?
So, a mindful reframing is instead of chasing after what you want in the future, focus on solving the problems that are in front of you, such as paying off your debt, paying the bills.
I would say too that yeah, like really think about it. When you think you are almost in this death cycle of wanting to buy more and more things, really take a pause. Really look at the problem at hand, what you're trying to solve, and also think about the tools you already have.
It's important to be grateful for what you already have because if you don't feel like what you have is already enough, it's going to make you hungry for even more things, collecting more items, trying to fulfill that void that you're trying to fill by like buying more and more things.
Right, that incompleteness that you're trying to solve. That's ultimately what it is, right? You're trying to solve the problem of incompleteness, but overall, like when you look at it, you honestly have everything that you need. Unless, like you really do need a specific thing that will make your life easier or will make you money,
Yeah.
in some type of way. It would be more of an investment, but a lot of people throw that word around like, oh, it's an investment. It's an investment. I feel like more it's more of a like excuse to buy more shit.
Yeah, that's crazy. That's exactly how I fell into my videography trap. Is I rationalize every purchase as like a future investment, something that needs to solve a problem for the future. But when I really stop to think about it, you have to pause and become aware that like you're basically trying to fill a void, that you have gas.
You have gas, and I do too. Well, yeah, that's it. We'll end it right here.
And if you found this podcast episode to relieve you of your gear acquisition syndrome, be sure to give us 5 stars on Apple Podcasts as well as Spotify. If you're watching this on YouTube, give us a like and subscribe to our channel. Thank you for listening, and this is your new SideQuest podcast.
Side quest complete.